Hey everyone, welcome back to Rising Stronger. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about the state of the world. I've been a therapist since 2007, and I have to admit, this past year, the topic of conversation that's come up more than ever before, probably in all my years combined, is just the current state of the world. You know, if we're being blunt, it feels like it's like a big dumpster fire right now. Between there's so many things from being inundated with like the heartbreaking, upsetting, devastating things from the Epstein files to war to the climate to all these political changes, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's very tempting to want to protect ourselves, right? It's very tempting to want to like bury our heads in the sand and you know, it's like that monkey where it's like see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil or whatever it is. It's like you want to just cover up and pretend that it's not happening. Um, but we don't want to do that. When we ignore what's happening, that's how history has a terrible way of repeating itself. However, at the same time, if you've been following me, you know that I was sharing how like our nervous systems are designed to handle our communities. Like we are not designed to get inundated all day long by things happening everywhere and anywhere around the world. And so there is a balance. So I wanted to talk about today, like, well, first, I love Glennon Doyle, so I'm going to read a little bit from a list here, but and some quotes. But she has this quote that says, "You're not a mess. You're a deeply feeling person in a messy world. You are exactly right to feel a lot right now. It doesn't mean that you are weak. It means that you're paying attention." I think that's a really powerful reminder that it takes a lot of courage to remain brave and open-hearted and sensitive in the world around us. And that's the thing. We don't want to, the urge might be to ignore or try to be tougher or more hardened to make it in this hard world. But one of the things I would recommend is the opposite. It's very brave and it's necessary to stay soft in this hard world. This world could use all the kindness and goodness that it can get, while also maintaining healthy boundaries so that you're not hurt or taken advantage of. But I really look at vulnerability more as a strength or even like a superhero power versus a weakness. So one thing I would suggest, I wanted to talk about ways to navigate coping and self-care with the dumpster fire happening around us. Tip number one, allow yourself to feel it. We are in a place where there are so many distractions, so many places to numb, escape, so many places to put our attention. And it's so important to stay connected to ourselves and to our feelings within a limited amount of time. Like you don't want to allow your thoughts to spiral and you don't want to be finding yourself ruminating and obsessing and it hijacking your entire day. But you also want to feel it all. Embrace those emotions instead of numbing them and just allow yourself to fully experience joy, sadness, anger, grief, fear without judging the emotions. Each and every one gives us very important information. Um, let your heart break along for victims and people in this life. But there was, I don't know if anyone has seen that show Shrinking that's on, but it's a cute therapy show. And one of the supervisors made this great point about like kind of giving yourself space and time to fully immerse yourself in whatever feelings. Again, no judging them, just recognize them as the different parts or different emotions coming up, but set a timer. Like he suggested 10 minutes. Maybe some days when it's big and heavy, we might need more than 10 minutes, but we also don't want it turning into like 4 hours of all consuming. So maybe set a timer for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes to just play the sad songs, the angry songs, cry, like just be in it. And then when the timer is goes off, then remind yourself, okay, I'm now going to put this away in in a little container and I'm going to put it in the back of my mental filing cabinet and I will take it back out again. But right now I need to stay focused on the things that I need to do for the day. Um, Another tip would be to like practice mindfulness and being still. You know, intentional stillness is so important, through meditation, breath work, quiet reflection, you can connect with yourself and your inner voice or your inner knowing. You know, I find it so, so scary when people are avoiding being alone in their thoughts. Like I know some people are like, oh, it's a scary place. I don't want to be alone with my thoughts. And they will do everything and anything to distract them. And that scares me because when we get past the noise of our parts and we get deeper, that's when we do connect to our wise knowing. We connect to God or your higher power. That's where really important information and wisdom comes from. We don't want to avoid that. Having an outlet to put some of this fear, anxiety, grief, heartbreak, maybe it's writing it out in a journal. The thing I always say is that journals don't judge. You can write and say anything you want, any way you want. You could curse, you could yell, you could cry, you could, blah, just get it out. And then if you're concerned about privacy, shred it up when you're done. I always encourage, like I know we're so high tech with typing and using our phones, but there is something about the flow that happens when we're writing. So I suggest actually writing it out. Um, Also getting it out with your people, not just everyone and anyone, but again, those safe individuals, people who honor your feelings and your depth, having those authentic connections to those who can really get you and be with you in all and welcome all of your feelings, no matter what they may be at the time. Um, Setting boundaries. You guys all know my favorite quotes about kind and loving, but boundary like a you know what. Um, you definitely want to set some boundaries in order to protect your energy. Saying no to things and people that drain you gives you room and space to say yes to things that really matter. Um, Also, creating brave spaces for yourself. If you don't have that at home or in your personal life, maybe it's a matter of like joining a support group. You know, I have a love-hate for all the social media things, but sometimes like even on like Facebook, for instance, you could find different support groups, but just schedule specific times to share with safe individuals. Excuse me, I have to sneeze. Physical exercise, a lot of that stress, anxiety can get stuck and stored in us. So just moving that body. Even again, if you don't have the time to do like a full gym workout or a full, you know, 45 to an hour long exercise, just a minute in place of jogging, jumping jacks, like burpees, just something running and, just getting that movement out, dribbling a basketball to take that energy and, you know, use it for something. Um, you've heard me talk about the grounding technique where it's like, what are five things I see? What are four things I hear? And you keep going through all of your senses. Take that practice, but dial it up a notch. So for instance, when you're saying, okay, what are five things I see? Add to that, like, what are five things I see that make me feel happy or safe? Like, for instance, in my room here, I have in front of me, my husband and I keep a bulletin board. And in a way, it's almost like, what's that called? We have like inspirational quotes, daily affirmations, things that like encouraging words. It's almost like we have like little vision boards for ourselves or reminders, and that makes me remember a lot of the strength I have, my dreams, my hopes, my aspirations. I have a calendar of Greece because Greece is someplace I'm planning to visit sometime soon, and I'm so excited. So I can let myself really be in it, really feel the excitement about going to visit, or if you're not able to, like feel the excitement of dreaming about going someday. And I have my mother-in-law made a beautiful wedding quilt when my husband and I got married, and all of our loved ones signed it. And, it just takes me back to lots of memories. I've got my buffalo pictures and statues. I've got pictures from an amazing trip. Like if I really focus in and take a moment to add mindfulness to that exercise, it can really help you with grounding and safety. Um, some of these are repeats to other things I've suggested for hard times, but just practicing gratitude, reflecting on things that you're thankful for each day to create a shift from the stressful things going on around us. And it really does work. I teach these principles and tools all day, most days, and then I do it on my own. But just the repeating that message again and again, in addition to practicing it, like that is locked into my brain to the point where I could be in the most horrible of situations and really can stop and look for the good or the beauty or the angels or the, things to make that really crappy situation better. Like it's kind of like building a muscle at the gym. The more you keep working on your six pack, you're not going to develop that overnight, but if you keep working on that over time, it gets easier and easier and you become more defined. So the more you practice that, seeking out, if you look for the good, you'll find it. If you look for the bad, you'll find it. And it's kind of like we are very well aware that there's a lot of bad happening around us on the day to day, but so is the good, right? So just kind of remembering that. Um, you know, with some of the things, the cruelty and the injustices and the horrific things, for instance, with the Epstein files, like it is awful, awful, awful. And you might have when you're processing those feelings, you might have like devastation and heartbreak and rage or anger that horrible things like that have happened or are happening in this world. I know I do, and this is where we don't want to numb or tune out our emotions because that's giving me important information, and I want to take that anger or rage for the injustices and pay attention to that and use that for something positive. Maybe you want to consider volunteering or taking some kind of positive action, because helping others can be empowering. You can consider like supporting organizations that help to advocate for justice and well-being. Like take that anger for the injustice and do something with it. Do something for good. And even something as simple as like, I don't know, most stores nowadays, they'll be like, "Oh, do you want to round up for this organization?" Or, like even if you've got 50 cents, like just doing a small good deed or doing a kind act of service for a stranger. Like again, we can't change and fix every single thing in this world, but we can keep adding some good. There's like that shirt, like be the good or believe in the good, and then it breaks down to like be the good. You know, um, do something with those feelings. You know, and then the other thing I would suggest is, trying some of that like cognitive behavioral therapy, reframing some of your thoughts, challenging some of the thoughts, like for instance, are my concerns based on verified facts or speculative information? If you've seen that documentary, The Social Dilemma, you'll learn that like whatever side you're on, our social media page just takes us down the rabbit hole of our side. So like um we don't we don't know what's fake news, what's real news, especially with AI. So like make sure that we're getting the facts. Um, practicing that cognitive reframing, like how can I view this situation in a way that feels less threatening? Are there opportunities for learning? You know, what aspects of this situation can I control and what is beyond my control? Kind of challenge that all or nothing thinking, being aware of confirmation bias. Am I only seeking information that confirms my fear while dismissing contrary evidence? Because I know, as I said, like these topics have been brought up several times throughout my sessions with clients, and just having my phone like literally sitting here that day, I was getting inundated with Epstein file stuff, and it's like, where is this coming from? It's kind of scary, what our phones listen to. And just again, finding that sweet spot between we don't want to bury our heads in the sand, but at the same time, limit the consumption of what you're reading, what you're watching, what you're listening to. Sometimes, like I'll tell clients that I work with betrayal trauma, you know, sometimes there's this thing called reassurance seeking. And so people will like go and look up to make sure that they're safe. They'll go and check the computers, they'll check phones, and it's like it's with the intention of creating safety for themselves. But on the flip side, if you do find something, now whatever you've read or seen can get locked into our brain and make things worse. So we want to be in the know, but it might not be good for our mental health to know every nitty-gritty detail about what's happening, because that's the stuff it's going to happen whether we know those nitty-gritty details or not, and just kind of stopping and checking in with like, how will this information help me or harm me? Just kind of reassessing the cost of worrying, Is this, if you notice it's gone beyond that allotted amount of time to feel it and to worry about it, then checking with yourself and saying, like, is this extra worrying or obsessing? Is it helping me to solve the problem or is it just increasing my stress? And that's something else you could do. It's like thinking to yourself, like, how can I put my energy into solving something for the world again? And also, like, maybe I need to focus on, like, how do I create safety and structure, kind of like giving us a feeling of control in our own personal lives rather than just going down the rabbit hole. Um, and lastly, just focusing on distinguishing the facts from the feelings. What are the facts of the situation and what are my interpretations or assumptions? And then how can I clearly separate or reduce the two? So again, um, it is completely human, completely normal and natural to have a lot of feelings around all the things happening in this world. Because yeah, if you're paying attention, there's a lot to be processing, to be feeling. Um, so hopefully these tips help to like navigate that balance and navigate um, just yeah, how to human through a messy world. So if you know anybody who would benefit from this, please share. I know, I know, like I said, I haven't had these conversations come up as much as I have in the past year. And I know my clients are not the only ones feeling this and going through this. Like it's a world issue right now. So anyway, thanks for listening. And yeah, please rate, review, share. That's how the podcast keeps going and growing. Have a good one.